Israel is bombing Gaza again. This is the first time since the ceasefire on May 21st, right? So in May, just last month, the Israelis attacked Gaza for 11 days from May 10th to May 21st. And then there was a ceasefire brokered by Egypt between Hamas and the Israelis. And it largely held. But then on the night between Tuesday 15th and Wednesday 16th of June, they started bombing Gaza again. And then right now, just an hour ago, so for those of you in the US, this is still Thursday the 17th, they're bombing Gaza again. So two nights again in the same week, they've gone back to bombing Gaza. This is the first time since the ceasefire. And I was reporting on this as it was breaking on Twitter, right? So you can always follow me on there for breaking news. I always cover things as they're happening there as well. And you can see here, this is from June 16th in the Jerusalem Post. They say the IDF, meaning the Israeli occupation forces, strike Gaza Strip after incendiary balloon fires. Right, so this is the excuse that they've been using for a long time now, right? They say that, well, you know, the Palestinians, Hamas, are sending incendiary balloons, right? These are like, they're filled with helium, right? And then they just randomly float from Gaza, and then they fall down and start fires, right? Because obviously, when someone sends a kite, you respond with an F-16, right? This is a very proportionate response, right? A balloon, an incendiary balloon, warrants an F-16, yes? And not just any F-16, completely subsidized by Uncle Sam, and on top of that, to bomb one of the most densely populated places on the face of the planet, right? To bomb a nation with no conventional armed forces, to bomb Palestinians living in Gaza, where half the population are kids, right? This makes total sense, right? This is such a proportionate response. I just want to show you some footage from that night. You can see. Well done, right? This is what they're good for. That's all they're good for. And what's always interesting, of course, is when they tell you that, oh, the Palestinians have been sending incendiary balloons, they don't tell you why, right? They think that they think that, oh, well, you know, there are these big bad Arab terrorists, these Muslim terrorists who have nothing better to do except send incendiary balloons and start fires because they're anti-Semitic or whatever bullshit they tell you in the mainstream media, right? I love also how they leave out that, you know, Palestinians are Semitic. Arabs, we are Semitic as well. But no, in any case, they don't tell you that the new government, right, the new occupation government under Bennett replaces Netanyahu. One of the first things he does, he approves this flag march, this so-called flag march, right? So for weeks now, even before the attack in May, you had the Israelis trying to evict Palestinian families in Sheikh Jarrah in East Jerusalem, which they've been illegally occupying since 1967. And in addition to that, they had imposed restrictions on Palestinians at Damascus Gate. They were banning gatherings during the holy month of Ramadan. And of course, at the same time, you had these pogroms. You had just mobs of Israelis, of racist Zionists shouting death to Arabs in the streets. I mean, we covered this on the channel, right? And with full protection of their so-called state, with full protection of their police, right? Even you would see Israelis with machine guns, with pistols, just walking around in the street, chanting death to Arabs. They were looting and breaking Palestinian stores. We covered all this. It's on the channel. There's a plethora of videos about this. And, you know, they don't tell you about the pogroms, right? And they don't tell you that the new government approved this, and that's why Hamas were sending incendiary balloons. They don't tell you that part, right? They don't tell you who's provoking who here. So this is from Al Jazeera. The caption reads, right-wing Israelis wave national flags during a Jerusalem Day parade. So once again, Jerusalem Day, I told you, this is the Israelis celebrating their capture of Jerusalem in 1967 during the Six-Day War. They've been illegally occupying it ever since. There are multiple UN Security Council resolutions telling them that not only they have to withdraw, but that their attempts to annex it, right, their so-called basic law or Jerusalem law, is null and void. It means jack shit under international law. It's a toilet paper. That's it. So they come here and celebrate their capture of Jerusalem, their illegal occupation of Jerusalem, their annexation of Jerusalem, the ethnic cleansing when they are evicting Palestinian families. This is ethnic cleansing. It's the textbook definition of ethnic cleansing. You're removing a population in order to bring in your own. I mean, it gets no clearer than that. And that's just one instance. You please, you must understand this. What's happening in Sheikh Jarrah is one instance of immeasurable instances of ethnic cleansing. This has been going on since before World War II, right? And in 1948, you had the Nakba, the disaster, the catastrophe. Millions of Palestinians displaced internally, millions of other Palestinians, expelled, their homes stolen from them. Some of them went to Jordan, some went to Syria. Millions. Do you understand what that means? Millions of Palestinians having their homes stolen? Millions? This is one of the biggest atrocities of the 20th and 21st centuries. It's one of the biggest instances of ethnic cleansing that has ever taken place. And it's happening every day. It's happening every single day. They bulldoze homes. They terrorize Palestinians. They make up these court orders, right, with their illegal occupation courts telling them to leave their homes. Every single day. It's not just apartheid. It's ethnic cleansing. It's occupation. It's way worse than people imagine, right? So here, just reading more from the article, this is again 14th June. Israeli far-right groups are expected to participate in a so-called March of the Flags through the Damascus Gate of occupied East Jerusalem's Old City and into its Muslim corridor on Tuesday, drawing warnings from Hamas of renewed hostilities should it proceed. Heavily armed paramilitary, border police. Again, I don't really see why you can call them border police because Israel is an illegitimate state. It has no borders. So heavy armed paramilitary, border police, and other forces patrolled the streets of the city, set up checkpoints, and blocked off roads throughout East Jerusalem. Right? Iron barriers were placed outside the entrance to Damascus Gate, where Palestinians said they would gather to confront the Israelis. Again, it's an occupation. I mean, what? They're not there. They're not there just to protect anyone, to maintain order. No, they're there to oppress. They help oppress the Palestinians, and so they don't tell you that this flag march, these racists going through the streets and chanting death to Arabs, they don't tell you about that, right? Right? And here, let me play you this. Do you see what they're saying? Do you see what they're saying? These I mean, look how sick this guy is. So I just explained to you what the Nakba was, right? The disaster or the catastrophe in Arabic, because all these Palestinians lost their homes, millions of them. To this day, millions displaced internally, living as refugees, and millions gone to Jordan and Syria. And he's saying the second Nakba is coming soon. Like, they just openly talk about committing genocide and ethnic cleansing, laughing. And this is what the United States supports. This is what the United Kingdom helped create. This is the work of the West. This is what they did. So don't come here and tell me that decolonization started in 1945. Decolonization never fucking happened. I don't care what your history books and your textbooks tell you. Decolonization never happened. Arabs Palestinians, Syrians are still fucking living with the consequences of colonization. They're still being colonized. Who put Israel there? The United Kingdom. Who subsidizes Israel? The United States. These people are going out on the street and laughing and joking about ethnic cleansing and genocide, and they want you to believe that this is a democracy. They want you to believe that Arabs are uncivilized. Arabs are backwards. Arabs don't do this shit. This is terrorism. They are the terrorists. They have stolen Palestinian homes. They have killed Palestinians. They have bombed Palestinians. They're still trying to steal their homes. They're still trying to annex land from Palestine, from Syria, right? I mean, they already have, and they want to take more. That's terrorism. They're still bombing Gaza right now. Right now, they're bombing Gaza. They have nuclear weapons, chemical weapons. Israel has never signed the Chemical Weapons Convention, never signed the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, and then they want you to believe that Iran is a threat. You never signed the fucking treaty. You have nukes, but Iran is the threat, and there's proof that they don't have nukes. Arabs are the threat. Palestinians are the threat. Palestinians don't even have an air force. Palestinians don't even have a navy. Palestinians can't even go on a fucking cruise. They can't leave Gaza. Palestinians have no rights. They don't even have a nationality. They don't even have statehood. They can't go anywhere on their own land. But they want you to believe that Palestinians are a threat. Palestinians are the problem. Palestinians are terrorists. So the world is upside down. The world is upside down. And this piece of crap over here is laughing and joking about it. Lebanon stands with us. That's really hilarious. That's really hilarious.
شو بيربيت ما ديك لو دبرت
הבית שלנו, פהם עליי, בית שלנו. מוות לערבים, מוות לערבים, מוות לערבים,
Very, very nice, right? They seem like a nice bunch. So here, over here, you can see what happened to a Palestinian woman. She was attacked live on TV just because she was carrying the Palestinian flag in Jerusalem. This is the same so-called march, right? It's the same day. So let me play that for you. Did you see that? That wasn't just a random person. That's the so-called border police, right? They have these gray uniforms. Again, it's the occupation forces. I mean, whether it's their so-called military or their so-called border police, they're occupation forces. They are colonizers. They have come from Europe. They have come from anywhere except Palestine to brutalize, to oppress, to steal their homes, to inflict apartheid, to terrorism. That's you just saw that. Right? I mean, could you imagine the fucking outrage if someone attacked, an Israeli for holding an Israeli flag? You'd never hear the end of it. But it's okay to do that to Palestinians in Palestine, right? That's totally fine. That's not anti-Semitic. That's not, racist. That's fine, right? So do you see why these are pogroms? And it's accurate to describe them as such because the state is cooperating with these so-called right-wingers. You need to understand something. This is not an isolated incident. Right? Just because they openly say death to Arabs and some Israelis don't say openly death to Arabs, it doesn't mean that they're not still going to kill Arabs, because they are. They have to. Dude, Israel's entire existence depends on killing Palestinians or expelling them and taking their homes. The whole idea behind it is that they want to take this land, and anyone who is there who's not Jewish, you have to go. So again, we had that video from a few weeks ago of this Israeli girl saying like, no, I don't think we should burn Palestinian villages, but yeah, we're still going to take their homes. That's the only difference between a right-wing Israeli and a regular Israeli. They're still going to take Palestinians' homes. They're still going to annex and oppress and colonize. It's just some of them want to do it a little less violently than the other one. That's it. That's it. That's the only difference. And so my point going back here is they don't tell you that these kinds of marches, this open display in the holy city of Jerusalem, no less, of chanting death to Arabs and we're going to burn your village. They don't talk about that. They just say, oh, these Palestinians just randomly, they launched some incendiary balloons. Oh, really? Just like that for no reason. Really? I mean, whether you agree with that or not, that's not the point here. The point is how the media obfuscates. The media does not tell you the full story. The media tries to paint a very different picture. They try to paint the picture that the Israelis are the victims. But they don't show you that the Israeli so-called state, the administration, the regime, is openly allowing these racist chants, these provocative chants to take place, these marches to take place. They don't tell you about that. They don't tell you that this is why the incendiary balloons came out. I mean, again, it's not whether you agree with it or not, but you have to give the fucking full picture. Otherwise, you're not reporting. And so, at the border, again, it's so ridiculous saying border. All of this is Palestine. It's all Palestine. It always has been, right? But just for the sake of clarity, at the border between Gaza and the occupation, although Gaza is also under occupation, under siege, you had also so-called clashes, right? Again, I don't like when they use this word because oftentimes when they say clashes, they're trying to downplay the oppression, the killing. But you know, this is where, let's say, confrontation is perhaps a better way to put it with the occupation troops there, right? So you had counter protests in Jerusalem. You had counter protests in all across Palestine and also here in response to this march. And one of those responses was also the incendiary balloons, right? So now they've gone and attacked Gaza again. So on 17th June, so 2 days later, they've bombed Gaza again. Just about 2 hours ago. Right? And then they come here and tell you that Palestinians are the problem and the threat. Really, this is incredible to me. You know, the Israelis, when they attacked Lebanon in 2006, right? So this was the 33-day war from, I can't remember, it was from July to August, right? I remember at the time I was in Damascus, and you know, every single day wake up and put on the TV, and everyone was kind of on edge because, you know, there was a fear that it could spill over into Syria any moment, right? And Hezbollah taught them a good lesson. I mean, they were not expecting that. But anyway, the point that I want to make about the 2006 war is that, you know, the Israelis, they bombed this district in Beirut called Dahiya, or I think it's Dahiya, right? It's with a Dad. So it's Dahiya, I think, how you pronounce it. And, you know, hence the name Dahiya doctrine, because they leveled it, right? And what does this mean, the Dahiya doctrine? Their point is that they will use disproportionate force, in case you haven't noticed, right, on purpose. And again, I find this kind of silly because it didn't just start in 2006. They've been doing this the whole time, the Israelis. They've always used disproportionate force. They've always done asymmetrical warfare, right? Palestinians have stones or some rockets, and the Israelis have an air force and a navy and the backing of NATO and the United States and the United Kingdom. They have F-16s. I mean, that's asymmetrical. Even if the F-16 doesn't take off, it's already asymmetrical. It's already disproportionate. Palestinians don't even have a defense budget. They don't even have any conventional armed forces. There's no defense budget because there's no fucking defense. Right? But they never tell you about this. They can never tell you the truth, because if they tell you the truth, you would understand that it's an occupation. It's not some conflict. It's not some war. It's not just two people that are fighting over. No, it's a fucking occupation. These people are colonizers. The Israelis are colonizing Palestine and have been for 73 years, and actually a bit more, right? But here's the neighborhood we're talking about, the suburb in Beirut, right, in the capital of Lebanon. So, I mean, you can see here just from the caption on this picture, that's a crater still there 2 years later. Right, and if you look at the doctrine over here, just on Wikipedia, right, the Dahiya doctrine is a military strategy of asymmetric warfare outlined by former General Eisenkot is his name, in the Israeli occupation forces, right, which encompasses the destruction of the civilian infrastructure of regimes deemed to be hostile as a measure calculated to deny combatants the use of that infrastructure, and endorses the employment of disproportionate power to secure that end, right? So that's a bit like saying, that's a bit like saying, well, I don't like your, I don't like you, so I'm gonna come and burn down your house, with your family inside of it, so that you can't use the bathroom anymore. Or you can't drink water. What the fuck? Yes, that's exactly what it says, right? So but let's be very clear. When you destroy public infrastructure, civilian infrastructure, that's a war crime. It's black and white. It's clearly spelled out in the Geneva Convention. There's no dispute about this. When you bomb civilian infrastructure like they did in 2006 and every other time they attack anyone, right? They specifically targeted residential neighborhoods, but not just neighborhoods, which is, I mean, already a war crime in of itself, but specifically the infrastructure, right? I remember them hitting the dam, I think. Let me look this up over here. Yes. The Litani River Dam. So they attacked that as well, right? They went after the infrastructure. I mean, we saw this just last month in May with the Palestinians in Gaza. What did they do? They bombed the road to Al-Shifa Hospital. They bombed the clinics of Doctors Without Borders. They bombed clinics belonging to the Palestinian Health Ministry. I mean, they even bombed the offices of the press. You remember that? They always target medics. They always target doctors. They always target the press. They target, the electricity went out. So you had 6 out of 10 power lines in Gaza that went out. You had a 40% drop in water because they hit this desalination plant, right? They hit the only desalination plant in Gaza. So they cut off water for the water supply for about, I think it was minimum 250,000 people. There's more around 400,000. Like, this is a war crime on top of war crime on top of war crime. And this is their policy. So my point here is that when Palestinians or Hamas send a balloon and they respond with an F-16, this is not an anomaly. This is their policy. This is what Israel has always been. And before 2006, this is what Israel has always done. Even in the days when there was no so-called state of Israel. You go and look at what these Zionist paramilitary groups would do when the British were still there. They would just straight up, they blew up the King David Hotel. They would execute or assassinate rather British officers in the street. They would go and assassinate non-Zionist Jews. They would go and assassinate Arabs. It's just always disproportionate. That's their policy. That's their mentality. And many of these people went on to become prime ministers. They formed the Israeli Defense Forces, the so-called Israeli Defense Forces, out of these militias like Haganah, Hashemir. They had different names over time. So this has always been their policy, right? And then they want to come here and tell you that they are at risk, right? They repeat this claim that Israel is defending itself. How are you defending yourself when you're inflicting the most casualties and you have an air force and a navy and the other side has rocks and stones? How are you defending yourself? You're the one attacking them. That's not defense. You can't have a death toll that's 10 times, 20 times higher inflicted on the other side and then claim you're the victim and you're defending yourself. You're not. You're the fucking oppressor. This is ridiculous. This is absurd. Right? So unfortunately, they're bombing Gaza right now, again. And so far from what I've understood, and again, this could change, I don't know, but my latest understanding as of the time of filming this video, there's been no response from Hamas in terms of rockets or anything like that. I think they had some sirens going off in one of the towns near Gaza, but it turned out to be a false alarm, or a false negative. It's just gone off by mistake, but it's not rocket fire from Hamas, right? So again, you can see who's also holding the ceasefire. All right, Hamas have fired no rockets. Israel's back to bombing Gaza. You know, I really, again, it's like a man beating a baby with a club and then claiming that he's defending himself from the baby. What the fuck are you talking about? Palestinians have nothing. They don't even have a state, let alone an army, or an air force, or nuclear weapons, or $3.8 billion every year in military aid from the United States. And you're claiming that you're defending yourself? You fucking bomb one of the most densely populated places on the planet because of a balloon? Because some incendiary balloon started fires? So you drop hundreds of kilograms of explosives on civilians? What the fuck is that? So again, just to recap, you see how they in the media, they just talk about, oh, Hamas is launching these balloons and they're starting fires. They don't tell you, though, that Palestinians are under occupation. They are resisting the fucking occupation, just like the French resisted the Nazi occupation, just like the Indians resisted the British occupation. They don't tell you that, right? They don't tell you that these balloons were a response to right-wing ultra-nationalists marching through Jerusalem and chanting death to Arabs, and saying we're going to commit another round of ethnic cleansing against you, although that's still happening every day. They don't show you that, right? No. They just say Israel is defending itself. And really, it's a terrorist pointing the finger and going, oh, look, these people, they're such bad people. These people are terrorists. The hypocrisy is unreal.